This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Caregiving Cafe today. Dura Sims, co-facilitator and with Paloma Hospice, is here as part of Caregiving Cafe always. And today we have Tracey Cummings, who is Ombudsman is it Travis County?
It is the capital area. So yes, Travis County is included in that.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So I'm going to obviously need to turn it over to Tracey so she can properly tell us her role. And she will talk to us today about Ombudsman and the whole process and when it is time to call one. Thank you so much, Tracey.
You are so welcome. So again, my name is Tracey Cummings, and I am with CAPCOG, the Capital Area Council of Governments, which houses the Area Agency on Aging. And then within the Area Agency on Aging, there are various programs that support the seniors that reside within our 10-county region. Okay, so they have various programs like benefits counseling, case coordination. They have caregiver support programs, health and wellness programs where they give classes on how to stay well and healthy. We also have information, referral, and assistance programs. We do medication screening, and we also have a housing navigator. And if you want any information further on those programs, just let me know, and I will go into that a little bit more deeply. And then there's also the Ombudsman program, of which I'm the managing local ombudsman. And that is what I'm going to speak about today. So the Capital Area Council of Governments Ombudsman program covers an entire 10-county area. And those areas, those counties include Bastrop, Blanco, Burnett, Caldwell, Fayette, Hayes, Lee, Llano, Travis, and Williamson. Now, there are other entities that are not CAPCOG that would cover other agencies. I put in the information into the chat for ACOG, which would cover San Antonio and those surrounding areas. So within the area we cover, there are 254 operating licensed long-term care facilities, which we have committed to visiting every single quarter. So every 3 months, every single facility gets at least one visit so that we can see the residents within the walls. There are hundreds of people that we serve. And our primary job is to ensure that the residents' voices are being heard and that they are receiving quality care within the facilities in which they live and that their rights are not being violated. So with their consent, we will advocate on their behalf with the facility's administrative staff. We document their complaints and we work with them on resolutions that are satisfactory to the residents. We also attend care plan meetings if we're called by the residents or family members. We also will attend and encourage resident and family council meetings. We complete appeal paperwork and represent the residents at their hearings in situations of involuntary discharge. So that being said, just a few things that involve rights as far as the residents are concerned. They have a right to privacy. They have a right to confidentiality of records. They have the right to vote. They have a right to know about their services and the costs. They have the right to control their personal finances, participate in care planning and treatment. They have the right to refuse treatment and to be free of chemical and physical restraints, to be free from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and also to complain without fear of retaliation. Every single facility should have a grievance process where residents can get forms, and those things need to be addressed within 2 days by the facility itself. They have the right to communicate freely with anyone of their choosing. I'm trying to think of how to explain that. So in a situation where a family decides that a resident's husband should not be seeing her because of things he's saying or doing, but the resident wants to see her husband, that's her right. And as long as she has no legal guardian, which means somebody who went through a court procedure to obtain guardianship, full legal guardianship over this person, it doesn't matter. MPOA doesn't count. Any kind of POA doesn't count, or power of attorney. Only a legal guardian has the right to make those decisions on behalf of a resident. And then they have the rights related to admission, transfer, and discharge, including the right to appeal a discharge. So basically what the ombudsman do, like I said, we go out and we visit the facilities and we talk to residents, and we try to make sure that they're receiving the care that they deserve. We make sure that nobody's rights are being violated within the facility. And if we find instances where they are, then we work with the administrative staff to resolve those problems. We offer them ideas and options. We help them resolve concerns that affect them. Like, let's say, for example, they find the food there, the quality is inadequate. You know, we will work with the administration, with the food service manager, and all those people to make sure that the residents' concerns get addressed. We also encourage them to attend their resident council meetings so that their voices can be heard in instances where they are unhappy with some of the services, so that becomes more collective. We respect resident choices and independence. We promote resident-directed care, which means the residents should have say if they are able in the care that they receive. We also inform government agencies and the public about the interests and needs of the residents. We advocate for resident-focused laws and regulations, and we help residents when a facility plans to discharge them. So up till now, do we have any questions?
Question? Quick question. How does one find out about the resident council meetings?
You can ask the facility, you can ask the facility social worker. In a nursing facility, they generally do not have social workers in the assisted living facility, so you can ask the activities director.
What topic should they cover under the resident council meeting?
Whatever topics that concern the residents that attend those meetings.
And how do we go about making sure that they set up resident council meetings?
So I have what's called a resident council toolkit, and any resident can start that, and I can give them the materials if they reach out and ask for them.
Would you be able
Any
to
other
send that to me, Tracey, send it to Lynn in case somebody asks, or should they contact you directly?
Oh, I can send them to you if you'd like. That's not a problem.
Whatever works and is the proper thing to do, I'm happy to help.
Okay. So on top of just the regular visits, we frequently go out and we follow up on complaints that come in, either from residents, from family members, from various entities, even facility administrators. However, we are resident focused, so all of our direction comes from the residents. So just imagine somebody's sister calls and says, my brother is in a facility and all of this is going on and I'm not happy with the services that he's getting. My next step would be to go visit that person and ask them for their consent to work on the concerns of the complainant. If that resident tells me they don't want to do that, then that is where everything ends, if that makes sense. So if the resident is not interested in following up with a complaint from somebody else in their family, in the community, or, you know, anybody besides themselves, then we do not move forward with them because we go by our residents' directions. And then that being said, we do not work for the facility. So if facility wants to, I don't know, have a resident, quote, behave a certain way, that's not what we're there for. We are there to make sure the residents are living the life that they want to live in their home, that the people they want to see, they are able to be, visiting them, to make sure, that the quality of life is as good as it possibly can be. And that is based on the residents' desires and wishes. Any questions about that?
I actually have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say, and I'm sorry, I didn't, I don't remember if you did, does that include visiting memory care sections of senior living, or just assisted living and skilled nursing? Because if some, so do you handle issues coming from memory care?
We most certainly do, yes.
Okay, so given.
So what we do is we go out to visit the resident that is in question. If we get a concern from a community member or a family member or somebody other than the resident, as certified ombudsman, we go out to determine, first of all, to gain consent, and then we are able to determine whether or not this resident is able to give consent. And if they are found to not be able to give consent, we can determine whether or not we should press through with the complaint.
That was exactly.
But it has to be in the best interest of the resident.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Excuse me. So also I think I went over a little bit the complaints that we investigate. And we are always trying to resolve the complaints in what is in the best interest of any particular resident and their wants, needs, and wishes. And I can give you specific examples. Of course, I will not use names and things like that, but a resident wants to attend Kingdom Hall, and the facility is not facilitating their ability to go, or telling them they can't go. They have a ride, they have whatever, but they're trying to keep them from being able to go and attend their place of worship. We will go in and advocate on behalf of the resident, and let the facility know that, this is a rights violation. So that's a lot of what we stand on, is the rights of the residents. I actually have a little booklet too that explains resident rights and their choice. So you cannot take choice away from residents either. You go into a facility and they're given mashed potatoes 4 times a week. Well, number one, they don't like mashed potatoes. So, they tell you, I'm on a certain type of diet. I can't eat carbohydrates. And these people are serving me mashed potatoes 4 times a week. So you go to the administrator and you have the conversation. And again, we do not work for the facility. We advocate on behalf of the residents. So we're not going to go by whatever the facility administrators have to say. We are going to work as hard as we can to resolve the issues to the residents' satisfaction. Any questions in that?
I have a lot of examples, so.
You want to share some?
Oh, there are residents where my husband is that get French fries, mashed potatoes, and that is considered a vegetable.
Interesting. So there's a couple of steps that you can take in that. You can fill out the grievance form, as I previously talked about, and give them to a trusted staff or the administrator. You can call your local ombudsman entity and have them come out and investigate that and advocate for the residents in a situation like that. Do you have another example you'd like to share?
So we have a lot of difficulties, I think, at Ledgestone. And Food is one, staffing is a huge issue. They only have 2 staff on. So, they have several people, probably out of 14, I would say at least a third have to be fed. And around the mealtime, they're trying to get people changed and get them to the table. And so they're really shorthanded, and but they are very reluctant to let me step in and help somebody that's sitting at the same table with my husband. So
So
people,
in speaking to that, I can tell you that currently they are working on what's called the minimum staffing rule, and that's going through the legislator at the state ombudsman level.
super.
You know, we know for several years that short staff is a serious problem within the facilities, and this is one of the ways that they are trying to work on alleviating that problem. And you can also, you know, if you're interested, you can look up the bills and whatnot that are related to long-term care facilities. And a lot of times they have the list of your representatives, your local representatives, and you can reach out to them and let them know, you know, yes or no for the legislations that's currently in the works.
Right.
And that is one way that you can tangibly help to alleviate your situation.
You can also volunteer as a volunteer in a community. So they're reluctant to have family members step in and do something because if God forbid something happened, a lot of times family members want to make sure, oh, here, yeah, I'll give you some of that cake. Well, somebody shouldn't have that cake because they're diabetic or something like that, but you're not aware of those limitations. And so you do that and then something happens. So it's a liability that falls on the staff and it falls on the community. But if you're a volunteer, and I've actually, when I worked in the community setting for both Civitas and Silverado, we actually had family members that wanted to spend more time with their loved one and help others, and they were able to become a volunteer whenever they chose to volunteer. But then they were trained in knowing the things to ask, the things to do, and then that covered them under the umbrella of the community.
And where does one find the grievance form in a given facility?
They're supposed to be, and I say supposed to be, accessible to the residents. However, I frequently do not find that. You can go to the nurse's station and say, hey, can I have a grievance form? And they know exactly what you're talking about, and they should know exactly where to find them, but frequently you have them asking a bunch of other people, but they will produce them eventually.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just go to the executive director or the administrator of the whole facility and just ask for that?
You sure can.
Yeah.
And they should also have at the front of each building, they should also have it prominently placed and like where you see pictures of who everybody is, like the executive director, the DON. There should also be a place up there where I say should because it doesn't always happen that way, right? But there should be a place up there where you can pull those forms out because you might want to do it anonymously.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
So, Tracey, would you recommend trying to resolve issues locally without involving an ombudsman? And then if it doesn't happen, then call on the ombudsman to give the community a chance to do something?
I feel that you should do whatever makes you feel comfortable. We are there to serve the needs of the residents within our 10-county region, just as all the other local ombudsman entities are there to serve the residents in their regions.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has any kind of complaint, again, the only thing that we're going to do first is go and speak to the residents. And the reason for that is because a lot of times, let's say a brother calls about, you know, his brother in the facility, or a daughter calls about her mom, or, you know, we go to see that particular resident, number one, to get consent to work on the complaint. And sometimes when we go out, we find that they don't want to work on that. Whatever the issue is for the family is not an issue for them. There's that. And then on top of that, they are afraid of retaliation. Though retaliation is illegal, you know, they are still the person that has to live in that facility. And we cannot 100% guarantee that that nurse's aide who got reprimanded for something they did or didn't do will not, you know, do little things that you can't really prove. You know what I mean? So we're going to stand with you. If we find out about it, you know, we will advocate on behalf of the resident, but we're not there at 2 o'clock in the morning. The resident is, which is why that decision is 100% left up to them.
That's kind of like a double-edged sword that
Yes,
almost
ma'am.
fearful. If you do something, it sounds kind of like first grade or high school. I don't
And you
know.
hear that a lot.
Yeah,
You hear that a lot. And one of the things we do is work with the administrators on that. You know, it's completely illegal, and they know that.
yeah,
They
yeah.
know that, but you know,
It's unethical.
we cannot 100% guarantee that would not happen.
Yeah, but
And
no,
that's why we leave it up to the administrators to make that, the residents to make that choice.
right. And I wouldn't hold the ombudsman accountable or responsible for anything or any retaliation. It is up to the executive director or the administrator of the facility to make sure that that is being run ethically, properly, legally, you know, in a compassionate way. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm kind of like really shocked to hear that
So-
right now, but yeah, live and
So
learn.
then the next thing we would do is make a report
Mhm.
to regulatory, to the abuse, neglect, and exploitation hotline. And then the state comes out and investigates those allegations. So let's just say a nurse's aide did retaliate in some way. Say they didn't come and change a resident on time or something. Well, we're going to make a report of abuse for neglect.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we're going to make any reports for any abuse, neglect, or any exploitation of any resident.
Now, what is the
And the
time
residents,
if
I'm sorry, what's that?
yeah, what is the time frame? Let's say somebody reports, I mean, nothing urgent like, oh, he tried to strangle me or something, so God forbid, but if it's something else,
Oh, that's a 911 report immediately, because you
Yeah.
can call the police as well.
yeah, okay. But if it's not that, you know, but if you notice, you know, little incidents, or whatever it is, even if it's the food or the linens haven't been changed in a month or whatever. So if that's reported to the ombudsman, when would the resident family expect the ombudsman to be there and start taking care of things?
We're supposed to get there within 48 hours if it is a serious. It depends on the complaint. Something like that, you could call yourself the A&E hotline, and let me get that number for you and put it in the chat.
Yes.
Anybody can call the A&E hotline at any time.
What is A&E?
What is A&E?
Abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
All right,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And to be honest with you, I am just, trying to be completely transparent, but I personally have not seen any retaliation on any of the complaints that I have received or worked on.
That's reassuring.
But I cannot promise, again, that is why we allow the resident to direct us. Because
Right.
again, they are the people that do live in the facility.
Right,
And
yeah,
sometimes, just knowing that somebody is there for them on their side and watching helps them feel comfortable enough to be able to make those complaints and whatnot, because, sometimes some of the residents don't have anybody and they feel completely alone and powerless within those facilities,
Mhm. It's true.
if that makes sense to everybody, and letting them know that we are there, we're going to hold their hand through the whole situation that they're going through, is really helpful for them to go ahead and speak up.
I'm going to jump in on that and say it's also a good idea if appropriate. This is where you would want to bring in hospice or somebody else who can advocate for you, because a lot of times as family members, they are concerned about retaliation, but hospice workers are also required to be reporters to the state. And therefore, sometimes that concern of retaliation doesn't fall back on the family. It is made by the advocate, their hospice advocate, whether that's their social worker, their nurse, their CNA. So whenever people say to me, is it appropriate to have hospice in a community or a facility setting? I always say, if the time is right, meaning that person is appropriate for hospice, take advantage of that, because the more eyes, the more hands, the more ears, the more reporters to the state, the safer and better care your loved one receives.
What are the state
And
rules?
that's also an extra level of care that your loved one is receiving within the facility.
Yes.
So somebody's there to change them, and they're not ringing their call bells, and nobody's coming for an hour to get them to the bathroom or to meet their needs.
Thank you both. Judy, you had a comment?
Are there state rules for qualifications for staff passing out medication?
So I am not 100% well versed on that, and I don't want to give people misinformation, but I do know that you have to receive your medication certification before you are allowed to pass out medication. So there is a whole class and everything that the staff would have to go through in order to be certified to hand out medications.
They don't necessarily have to be a certified nursing assistant or,
Usually it's a med tech.
okay.
Yes.
And is that a licensed position?
Yes.
Tracy, I think you were going to give us the A&E line, the number for.
I'm working on that right now,
Oh,
typing
okay.
it
I'm
into the
sorry.
chat.
Yeah.
You're fine. Excuse me.
Well, I'm certainly glad that we have a recourse in ombudsman that is on, I'll say but the patient side, which is, family and the patient are, I see them as,
Well, sometimes you have a lot of discord between families where one family member wants something where a different family member wants something else.
Mhm. Yes.
So that, again, that's where we have to be resident directed. What does the resident want in this situation? So we are there to listen to their concerns, to their side, because a lot of times when families start kind of butting heads again about issues and things, what the actual person they're arguing about gets lost, what they want and their needs. Does that make sense to people?
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of, like, there's the, for the capital area, and I'm almost positive it's for the whole state of Texas, there is the disability rights lawyers that provide services for people, and I refer people to them a lot. We refer people to adult protective services. Somehow it has gotten out that if a person is in a facility, they can't, receive adult protective services. That is not true. So in a case where, let's say somebody is the MPOA or somebody that takes care of somebody else's financial issues and things seem to be not right, the bills are not getting paid, the person's about to be discharged because the bills to the facility has not been paid, that is a adult protective services call, so they can go, because we can't investigate that, but they can. They can go in and find out where this person's money's going, why the bills are not getting paid, and potentially, find a different POA for this person who's actually going to take care of the needs of them. If people are in the facilities for, let's say, therapy and it's short term, we still work on their behalf, but I will give them referrals. There's this, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of money follows the person. So it's basically anybody who is eligible for Medicaid, through their managed care organization, they are privy to having a social worker. A service coordinator. And that is set up with the social worker in the facility. And this person who is Medicaid eligible, they will set up services for that person to provide care for them in the community as opposed to in a facility. So they will still get the home health and the nursing assistant and the nursing services that they need, but that is going to be within their home as opposed to within the facility. And I do a lot of referrals to that program.
Is that only for Medicaid eligible persons?
That is only for Medicaid eligible. I wish there was something for people that are not Medicaid eligible, but there is not that I know of at this point.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
But here's the other caveat to that is that if you leave the facility before everything is all set up, then you are no longer eligible. Those services have to be set up while an individual or a resident is within that facility. So when we don't have the necessary resources to meet people's needs, that is when we will give those types of referrals. And that was my whole point of talking about them.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So here comes the number for the A&E hotline. And anybody can call this number. Staff who work in the facilities can call this number. You can do it anonymously, just the same as you can do an APS report anonymously. If somebody is, let's say, isolating a resident from other family members, from their support systems, that would not be an A&E, but that could be an APS report.
Right. Okay. I'm going to read the number out loud because I can't see with or without my glasses. So the abuse, neglect, and exploitation hotline is 1-800-252-5400. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. You are welcome.
Could you just repeat what you just said about the difference between A&E versus APS? Like what that
So A&E
isolated.
is specific to exactly what it is: abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So adult protective services, it's not just abuse, neglect, and exploitation hotline is simply for long-term care facilities. For the adult protective services, they also serve people out in the community and anybody else who makes a complaint. You can even make a self-report of abuse, of adult protective services, like a COG IRNA line or the information assistance and referral. Somebody tells us that they're living in horrible living conditions and they're in the community. They're not in an assisted living or a nursing facility. You know, their water got cut off. They don't have any lights. They don't, have proper sanitation in their home. That would be a call to adult protective services. And, one of the terms that are used is self-neglect. So you're not able to really take care of yourself, or you're neglecting taking care of yourself. You're not eating, things like that. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you had mentioned like if somebody's isolating somebody from a family member, but that would be out in the community, not necessarily in a long-term care facility.
Right. So anything that's thank you for giving that. Anything that happens within the facility or is caused by the facility would be the A&E hotline. Things that are happening from community members outside of the facility, that would be APS.
Okay.
Does that make it clearer?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions?
How often should a care plan be given to a family member or the person, the resident?
So I believe that anytime there's any change, any circumstance, anything that happens that needs to be addressed, a lot of what we as ombudsmen is go out and attend the care plan meetings or schedule care plan meetings so the issues can be addressed and the care plan can be updated. So as often as necessary.
Okay. Okay. There is a podiatrist that comes to our facility every 64 days. I believe that's how often Medicare will pay for that. My husband's been in the facility for 9 months and the podiatrist is not made, he attempted one visit with my husband and he refused to take his shoes off. I asked to be called. And so far, they always forget to call me when the podiatrist comes. So what could I do about that?
So what you could do is call your local ombudsman entity, schedule a meeting, and have it written into his care plan that you are to be called every single time the podiatrist comes so you can assist with the care that he needs, that he's got to refuse if you're not there.
That's really
Any
helpful.
other questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I said, what you do is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, well, we try our best. Again, it is to improve the living circumstances of the residents that we work with. You know, you go in the facilities and, you know, that's people's homes. This is where they live, you know, and then you have staff that are in there that are not, or can sometimes not be respectful of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we try to get them to understand, you know, your role as staff is to make the lives of these residents as comfortable as possible, to provide the care that they need. And, you know, there's an issue with short staffing, which we are well aware of, and things are being, you know, behind the scenes worked on that.
Do you have a
You know,
congressman
but
you can contact?
I'm sorry?
Is there a particular congressman or representative that's working on that?
So it goes through your local representative. You're going to let them know. I wish I had the information in front of me. I do not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to give me your email address, I can send that to you.
Okay. JUDI.
Hold on, I was sending you my email so you don't have to give it out publicly.
Okay. Well,
I was going to say, I
almost
can
everybody
connect you.
knows.
Yeah, I can connect you both as well.
And
And you as well?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So, Tracey, I could do it now, but I'm not that talented. Later today, I will send an email and have all three of you. Is it all right if we share emails here?
I'm fine with
You
that,
might
yes.
have something in common here.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah. So,
And I put my email in the chat.
okay, thank you. And I'm going to read it out loud. Gosh, she's classy. Is if you want to write it down. Yes, it's T Cummings with 2 M's, TCUMMINGS at capcog, that's CAPCOG.org. Thank you, Tracey. All right, and I will look into the representative because I'm also involved in caregiver advocacy. And this is an important part of that, working with the Area Agency on Aging. As a matter of fact, Jennifer Scott and some of us met to make sure that family caregivers are, you know, their needs are being voiced and met. And
And you want to utilize the COGS because they have a lot of caregiver supports built in. You can work on getting respite and things like that through those supports.
Yes, yes, definitely.
No, respite is a term that not everybody knows. So basically you get a break from your caregiving. You can have them pay for somebody to care so you can have a break.
Mhm. Yes, yes. So I have this rack card and there's the area agency on aging. I don't know if you can see this because I can't see it, but and it's caregivingcafe.com also has a resource directory. It's about 18 pages long. It's alphabetized and you can find all the different categories. And it's made up of recommended services and professionals. It's not just pulling it out of a hat and, you know, so everybody listed there has been recommended by somebody else. There's one that I need to delete because it changed management, so I need to get rid of that. But we don't badmouth anybody. We just don't talk about them. We only talk about the good people. So, all right.
So which one is that? There's
No, above that, area agency on aging, that's a main number. But if you go to the main website, you can find a lot of information. But also if you turn that to the front in caregivingcafe.com, that's I created that and with tech help. And there's has a resource directory. You click on the button and it takes you to this other directory that has a lot of good information. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Tracey.
You're so welcome.
Okay. So anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, it's like I tell the residents when I'm visiting them and hearing their concerns or the fact that they're happy with where they live. You know, we're here if you need us.
That's good to know. Very good to know because, you know, oftentimes as family caregivers, we kind of don't know where to go. Who's on our side, who's there. And sometimes, a lot of times the people are there. We just don't know who they are. So that's why one of the missions of Caregiving Cafe is to connecting the families to the resources. You might not think you need that, but you'd be surprised how many times, oh yeah, they say, oh, I wish I had known that, or, oh, I can use that service. So thank you so much, Tracey. Does anybody else, and I want to say hello to Stacy, who I see up there joined us. Hi, welcome, Stacy. Anybody else have anything to add, comments, questions? This is a chance. We got Tracey right here, right now. Yeah, of course.
Yes, so I do have a question. There's a social worker at the facility that my brother's at that
Let me just interrupt.
yeah.
Is this going to be kind of personal? Because I can stop the sharing, the recording.
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So let me just say thank you. I'm going to end the recording if I can figure out how to do it. Thank you so much, Tracey, for being here. And you've shared a lot of really, really great information. So don't be surprised if you get a lot of emails in the near future. Thank you so much. You have a great day. I'm going to stop the recording. All right. I just don't remember how I did it.
Okay, go up to the left and you're gonna hit that.
Oh, so wait, over here.